What a beautiful day outside. Like one of the last ones I think we're gonna have, but like I can just feel the sun beating in on me. Also the sun reflecting off of my fluorescent orange sweatpants. I'm so sorry, that'll get better. And I just feel like taking a nap, honestly, just sitting in the sunbeam and napping, but we can't do that today. Also, just real quick check-in, anyone down in the comments, House of the Dragon, last night's episode, because I'm filming this on a Monday, it'll go up on a Tuesday, so we're fresh off of episode 7. How are we feeling? How are we feeling? Because last night's episode, without like spoiling anything, I think if you know me at all, you would know that I am Team Black. So if you're Team Green, sorry to you. We can still be friends, but not the way to go. Not the way to go. Let's jump into my September wrap up. Did I read 16 books last month? I don't know. I read close to that. I have a couple that I didn't get to touch on in my August wrap up that I had finished right at the end of the month, right after I had filmed that video. So I'll quickly touch on those books as well at the beginning here. So anyways, let's jump in. Okay, let's just scooch this over a little bit. All right, so one that I finished up at the end of last month, but then the other two that I finished up at the beginning of this month, that we're just gonna lump these three together real quick here, are the last 3 books in the Empire Night series by K.A. Tucker, Empire Nightclub series by K.A. Tucker. So Gabriel Fallen, I finished at the end of last month, and I gave this one 4 stars. Honestly, I'm not even gonna break these down individually. I gave Gabriel Fallen 4 stars. Dirty Empire, which is book 3, I gave 4 stars as well. And Fallen Empire, which is the last book, I also gave 4 stars. So consistently across the board, this entire series got 4 stars. The last book was one of my favorites. I think the 3rd and the 4th book maybe did I like the most. Honestly, they all are kind of blending in together in my memory because it follows the same couple, Gabriel and Mercy, the entire time. Obviously, I can't really say anything about these books because you'd have to read the first one, otherwise I would just be spoiling things for you here, and obviously I'm not gonna do that. It's like cartel, bit of like an arranged situationship kind of between them. Mercy's trying to get her father out of prison, and Gabriel is involved in like crime and organized crime, and he has like connections in prison, so he's like, hey, I can help your dad out on the inside if you want to like come and live with me for a week and do what I want. I love this series. It's very enjoyable, very bingeable, overall a fun time. And yeah, like I said, 4 stars across the board. Then the other one that I read right at the end of the other month that I didn't get to include there, but Sweet Christmas by Macaulay Smelter. This is super short, quick novella, only about 40 pages. It follows Danny and Lachlan from Sweet Dandelion, obviously, and it's just their first Christmas together. So after Sweet Dandelion, nothing like, you literally don't have to read it. Only really if you're like a diehard fan of that book, like I am, would you enjoy it, because it's just them having Christmas together. Danny's like mourning the loss of her mother, still obviously like around the holidays, that grief comes back up again. Sage, her brother, and Lachlan still have kind of like a bit of tension with their relationship, obviously with how Danny and Lachlan's relationship all played out. And it's just them having Christmas together. It's super cute. I loved it. I gave this 5 stars because I will take literally anything that Macaulay Smelter wants to give me with these 2 characters. But was it like necessary? No. Was there like plot points to it? No. It was just a fun, cute time with them, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Next was one of my most highly anticipated releases of the entire year, and it finally came to us last month, and it was incredible, and that is Out of Bounds by Lucia Franco. So this is a companion novel to the Off Balance series. Once again, it's not like a short story following them, it's bonus material. So in here, there's deleted scenes from all 5 of the other books that are included. So like deleted scenes from release. First of all, the formatting, bitch. So it's like deleted scenes, and then she had like an interview that she did with Kova in here. That was my favorite part. I cried in it. It made me emotional. It was so good. She had like an open letter about the Off Balance series just in general and all the things that she went through with it. An excerpt from Xavier and Avery's book, which is coming out in February of next year, which I'm so excited for. Truly, once again, this book was just for like the ride or die Off Balance fans, which like, hello. So I obviously enjoyed this. I gave this 5 stars. I will take literally any little scraps that Lucia Franco will ever give us of Rhea and Kova, and I do think that we're done here. And it's okay. Lucia, you can move on, but I love these 2 so much, and it was so exciting. Me, Cheyenne, and Caitlin did like a little like reading sprints, talk about the release the day that this came out, and I sent the link to Lucia because like her and I had been DMing back and forth about the release and everything, and I just said like, hey, here's the link. If you want to jump on, great. If like not, no worries. If you're like clearly you're busy, you don't need to. And she popped on and she made our entire night. Like, oh my, I was riding that high for like a whole week, getting to talk with her for a little bit. So anyways, I just absolutely loved this. Okay, next up was another 5-star read. I had a lot of 5 stars this month actually, and that was Mercy by Sarah Cates. This is the first book in, or not the first, the 4th book in the Salacious Players Club series. And this one is my favorite of the series by far. I freaking loved it. And I think I was like pleasantly surprised about that because this one follows Bo and Maggie and it's a reverse age gap, which I don't normally love. I don't like dislike, but it's just not normally my favorite. I do tend to prefer when the hero is older, but this one, it's a reverse age gap. Maggie is like what, 36, 34 maybe, and Bo is like 22. So it's dom sub, but Maggie's the dom and Bo is the sub. So again, you have that reversal there, which was so fun. Like I have not read another book like that really. And then also best friend's son, because Maggie and Emerson, Bo's dad, they're business partners and buddies, and Bo is obviously Emerson's son. So if you've read the entire series, you would have already met Bo in previous books and Maggie as well. But Bo is the boyfriend of the heroine from the first book, Praise. That's Emerson, his dad's book, and Charlie, which Bo is Charlie's ex, and then she gets with his dad. So then Bo's pissed. And Bo is kind of a piece of garbage. But you see him just work through all of his issues in this book, and oh, it was just phenomenal. Like absolutely loved this book. There was no 3rd act breakup, which that's my only bone to pick with Sarah Cates books, is that there always seems to be some 3rd act breakup, and I hate 3rd act breakups, and all of the rest of the books had them and this one did not, which it just so worked. I loved Maggie's character and just kind of talking about like what it is to be a woman in business, and then also she grew up in a very conservative family and like a religious family where it was like not okay for her to like express her sexuality at all. And then now that she's older and she like is a part owner in the sex club, and she's kind of just like becoming okay with who she is and what she does, and that it's not like a bad thing. And Bo's kind of going through that as well. Like he's always seen his dad's business as being like shady and gross, and he's realizing as well like, oh, it doesn't make you like a bad person to want to explore these things consensually with another person. And it was just a beautiful journey with both of them. Absolutely loved it. Literally my favorite of the series. 5 stars. Cannot recommend enough. Oh, this next one is a tricky one for me. Okay. Next up I have Break for You, or is it Break for Me? What is it? Break for Me? I keep on always doing the wrong one. By KB Rowe. So this one is a coach athlete age gap forbidden romance between Payson and Ash. And so this one follows Payson. She is a high school volleyball player and just starting her new season, coming off of summer where she is on parole. She was arrested over the summer for an altercation, and she now has like an ankle monitor bracelet, and she's kind of neglected all of her friends, and she's heading back into the volleyball season, hoping to like reconnect with her coach, who her coach is not there anymore, and she meets her new coach, who happens to be Ash, who she like idolized when she was younger. He's a former professional volleyball player, and I think he was an Olympic volleyball player as well, and now he's her new coach. I don't really want to get too much into Payson's past and like the thing that led her to be on parole, because obviously you need to find that out as you read for yourself. So very taboo, obviously, because he is her coach, and also the fact that there's a huge age gap. Here's the thing with this one. I think I ended up rating this one 3.5 out of 5 stars, but I rounded it up to 4 on Goodreads, because here's my thing with this. I love the premise. I loved the characters. It's darker. It's not dark. It's not a dark book, but however, there are some things in Payson's past that are really dark, and there are some things on page that she does to like deal with her mental health. So just check trigger warnings before going into this one, because it does get dark with her character, but the overall romance is not dark. Like I would not say this is a dark romance. It's just that it's like heavy. Here's where my problem is with it. They don't care. They quite literally could care less that they are coach athlete. Like it took them almost no time moving into a physical relationship with each other. I want to say by like the 20% mark was he already like, oh, I'm thinking about how it would feel to fuck you. And I'm like, bro, what? It was so like quick in that aspect. It did not take them long for them to like physically start like entangling themselves with each other. And I was like, can we slow this down? And also, no one cares. No one cares around them. They don't care. They themselves don't care that they're breaking any rules. Her friends don't care that find out. Even her grandfather, who like cares for her, he doesn't know, but he like knows that she always used to have a crush on him and that he's like around their home. And he's like, oh, I think it's cute that you have a crush. Grandpa, okay. Even Ash's parents are like, we can't wait to meet you. And I'm like, so that was my main gripe with this book, was that no one cared about the forbidden, so it didn't feel super forbidden. What I also did not realize was that this is not a standalone. This is in fact, I don't know if it's a series, a duet, whatever. It ends up on a cliffhanger, so if you don't like that, hold off on reading this then until book 2 is out. I will read it when it does, because like I'm invested and I liked it. However, for it being a forbidden romance, it just did not feel forbidden in the slightest. Okay, sorry, I think that was kind of like a long bit there. We'll see what I can edit down on that. But I just had a lot of feelings on that. I literally talked about that on my Instagram stories when I was reading that book. Okay, next up, then I'm moving into the Twisted and Taboo readathon that we had in September. So if you followed along on that, we just had like different prompts that we were reading over a weekend that we had chosen. So I have some books from that. I already have a full reading vlog for all of the books covering that I read in that. So I'm gonna try to speed through these a little bit more, just to like save myself some time, save you guys some time. So I'll include my vlog down below where I talk in depth about all of these books more. The first one that I read for that was Hush Hush by Lucia Franco. So this one follows James and Aubrey. She's in college and she's struggling to make money. She's caring for her grandmother, and her roommate and best friend Natalie is like, hey, I could get you a job where I work. And Aubrey's like, I don't know if I want to be a bottle service girl, because that's what she thinks Natalie does. And Natalie's like, you know, just let me get you an interview, whatever. And it turns out that Natalie is a high-end escort and recruits Aubrey to start working as well. And when Aubrey accepts, she starts going out on jobs, and at one of her jobs she happens to meet James, and she starts feeling things that she should not be feeling for a client, and it goes from there. I absolutely loved this book. 5 out of 5 stars. I knew I would love it. I mean, it's Lucia Franco. I put this book off of reading it for so long because I knew I would love it, and I just didn't want to be caught up with her writing. Loved the atmosphere that was created at the beginning of this book, because it's like 100 something pages before James is even introduced. So it's a long time when you're just getting Aubrey and Natalie and their friendship, and Aubrey like starting to become a part of this lifestyle, and just getting background on her before James is even introduced at all, which I really liked. I love getting that friendship. Aubrey and Natalie, their friendship was golden in this, carried part of this book for me. I love James and Aubrey's relationship. It was very messy, very back and forth, toxic. There's cheating in this. I don't care. I love it in a book. And yeah. Okay, next for that reading vlog, I read Sick Twisted Minds by Candice Wondrak. This is the 3rd book in Cruel Black Hearts series by Candice Wondrak. We read the first one for Out of Bounds Book Club a couple of months ago, and I continued on. And honestly, I don't know. I can't really even get into plot things about this book because obviously you need to read the other 2 before this one. But it follows Stella, and she's a writer who is obsessed with serial killers. She has a blog about them, and she's like an outcast. She doesn't really fit in with anyone. She's always felt really different. And when she meets Ed and Lincoln, she kind of finally feels like she belongs. Only Ed and Lincoln happen to be serial killers. And at the same time that she is getting to know them, there is a serial killer starting to make his presence known around their town. Stella dubs him the Angel Maker, and she also, you know, has her interest piqued by him. Overall, this 3rd book, I think I gave it 3 stars. It's just that there's not a lot happening. There's not a lot going on. There was finally something at the end that I was really, really hoping that Stella would do, and she finally did, and I was like, oh my gosh, she went there. Like, that's the next level, Stella. And I did really like that, and we did get some more answers, but overall, the book just felt kind of like slow, and just there wasn't a lot going on. I don't know. I don't have that like vested emotional interest in these characters, so even when they're just doing like random activities or like having dinner together, I just don't necessarily care. This and the 2nd book have not lived up to the 1st book for me. Next, Forbidden Obsession by Regina Wades. This was our group pick for the Twisted and Taboo reading-thon. I don't know what these 2 characters' names were, but it's a stalker novella, and it's about this one woman who teaches yoga at a yoga studio, and a guy who takes pictures of her and stalks her. And when she finds out that he's stalking her, she loves that. She loves it. She has no problem with it. You know what? Pop off. Whatever makes you happy. I didn't like like it. I gave it 2.5 stars. I rounded it up to 3. Novellas are just never gonna be my thing. Here's the thing, like no, absolutely like no hate or anything towards this book or to this author. Novellas are never going to be my favorite thing. I don't really like them, or I only really like them if they're with couples from other books. So it's like a standalone and then a novella following them. Like I love that, but if it's just a standalone novella, I really have a hard time connecting with them. And I just know that about myself, but this was our group read and I read it and you know what? I didn't vibe. Next, I finished the A Court of Mist and Fury graphic audio by Sarah J. Maas. So this was what? Was this my 4th reread of this book? I think it might have been my 4th reread of this book, but it's the first time that I've ever listened to it. And I loved it. I'm loving the graphic audios. So obviously the book itself, it's fantasy. It's the 2nd book in the series. Can't say much plot-wise, but it's like fae, romance, fantasy, fun times. Anyways, I don't feel like explaining it. With the graphic audios, super, super cool because there's like sound effects, there's music, there's different stuff. I do think if you're reading these books for the first time, like the Agatar series, I would not recommend listening to the graphic audios the first time around because I do think there are things that are being left out because it's instead like made up by like sound effects, you know. I'd highly recommend if you want to listen to them the first time that you're reading them to listen to the regular audio. But if you're like me and have already read these stories and maybe you're not the biggest audiobook person, but you're like trying to see if you can like become an audiobook girly, this is great. I love the graphic audio. It keeps my attention with all of the background noise and the various people, because also it's like a full cast. So like every single person talking is a different narrator, which I love. Oh, anyways, I gave it 5 stars, obviously. I love this book so much. One of my all-time favorites. Oh, 2 more books I read for the Twisted and Taboo Readathon. I read Coach Me by Shanora Williams. So this one is coach, athlete, college, age gap, forbidden romance between Amber and Torres. So Amber is a freshman in college. She's a very, very talented track runner. And she was like recruited to go to the school on scholarship and run for their team. And when she gets there, she meets all of her coaches, and one of those coaches is Torres. And he is kind of known as being like the dickhead coach, like makes them run, shows no mercy, all that kind of stuff. And he sees Amber and sees her potential, but also sees that, you know, she might need that little bit of extra like push. And he really takes it on to himself to like really push Amber to her full potential. And she really responds to his style of coaching because her dad used to coach her and he had like a similar kind of style, and her dad passed away. So she's like dealing with that grief, not really as much right now because it did happen years ago, but still like her dad and his memory is like a constant theme throughout the book. And she just really responds to Torres's coaching style with that. Amber has a hard time fitting in on the team, a hard time with the girls and even some of the coaches accepting her. She is the only black runner on the team, right? I think. And some of the girls are just racist pieces of garbage. And even one of the coaches is a racist piece of crap. And Torres like really kind of sees that and like keeps her motivated and just is like there for her when she's struggling with that and making sure that, you know, she sticks out because she's talented. Yeah, it goes from there. Oh my god, it's the garbage. How do they always show up right now? Okay, let's wrap up Coach Me super quick then. My one issue with this, I love Shanora Williams' writing. She's one of my favorite authors that I've discovered this year. However, with this one, there's no angst. There is no angst and there's no tension between these two for once again having a forbidden romance. They don't care about being coach athlete, and there's just really not a lot of that angst build up, and I just missed that. I wanted more. So I gave this one 3.5 stars. I also rounded it up to 4 on Goodreads. Loved both of these characters and I loved their romance. Just more angst, please. Next up, my last one for the Twisted and Taboo Readathon was Mute by M.L. Nystrom. So this is a motorcycle club novella. So this one follows Katrina and Mute. And Katrina she's trying to make her way through college, but she's really, really struggling with money. The job that she has at the library, the program is like going away, so she's losing that job, and she has like no family, no one to fall back on. And she's really needing a job. And one of the ladies who comes in to the library with her grandsons, I think her name's Bonnie. She's like the head lady of the motorcycle club because her man is like the president, so she's like the main lady, you know, of everyone. And she's like, hey, I have this biker bar and I need some like bartending help. Do you want a job? And she offers it and Katrina accepts, and she goes and kind of like gets immersed into this whole new world with a biker club and really becomes a part of their family there. And one of the patrons, one of the members of the MC is mute, and he is like this really big protective kind of guy. And he was in a fight years ago where his throat was like slashed all the way through and he miraculously survived, but all of his vocal cords were cut, so he can't talk. So they like figure out a new way of communicating, just the two of them, and it's their romance and it goes from there. I absolutely loved this. I loved the motorcycle club elements of it. I loved Katrina's character. I loved her relationship with Mute. It was just solid, and I'm not normally the biggest fan of motorcycle clubs, but I really enjoyed this like whole family dynamic and just Katrina's character. And yeah, I will definitely continue on with the series because the next person is one that we got quite a bit of in this book and I liked him a lot. So I look forward to reading book 2 in it. Next up, okay, I literally can't say like anything about this book without spoiling it. I want to keep this spoiler free, so I don't really even know how to talk about this book, and that's Penpal by J.T. Geisinger. This one we read for the Out of Bounds book club this past month, but we did a joint live show with the Cover to Cover book club, which Tori and Sam host, because they were also doing the same books. We're like, well, let's just do like one big live show. So that was a lot of fun. I love doing that with them. Here's the thing with this book. It's not a romance. It's like, yes, there's romance in it. There's heavy romance plot to this, but it cannot, I'm not saying what is or is not romantic to you. I'm saying that this is like, it cannot be classified as a romance because it does not have a traditional happily ever after. And I'm not even gonna get into that. I'm not gonna get into like the logistics of publishing and like what can and cannot be called a romance, but there is romance in it. But I would say that this is like a thriller more so. So this was the first book that I've ever read by J.T. Geisinger. I've never read any of her other work. I did enjoy this book. I gave it 3 stars. Here was my thing with it. I was bored for about 75% of this book, and then the last 25% I loved. I was here for it. I loved the twist. I loved the ending. I loved all of that, but that can't make up for the fact that I was bored for the vast majority of this book. You know what? I'm not even gonna say anymore. I don't want to spoil anything. But it is nothing like I thought it was going to be going into it, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I've heard extremely mixed things on this book. I just make sure that if you're going into this, know that this is not like a traditional romance whatsoever. If you want to talk about this book more specifically, feel free to DM me, and like if you've read it and like if you want to chat about it, I'd love to chat with you. Or if you're like want to know spoilers going into it, I would be happy to tell you, but I'm not going to tell the mass of you. So if you want to, just DM me. I'll chat with you about it. But I don't know what else to say about it. Okay, next, my other book club pick from last month was Lola and the Millionaires by Catherine Moon. This was our Smut Club pick, and actually the live show is happening tonight, the night that I'm filming this, so yesterday when this video goes up, because we had to push it back because of Hurricane Ian, Cheyenne was like, yeah, when we push this back because she lives in Florida, and I was like, yes, let's do that for you. I loved this. I gave this 4 stars. So this is an Omegaverse reverse harem book. It's technically the second book in the Sweetverse series. However, it's the first one following Lola. The first one, you can definitely jump into this one without reading the first one. It follows her friend Baby. I liked that one, definitely not as much as Lola, and I know so many people jump straight into Lola and love it and then they'll go back, so you can definitely do that. You don't need to read the first one in order to read this one. And Lola is just starting a new job as a beauty editor at this magazine, and she's really excited to kind of like get a fresh start off of some of the traumatic things that happened in her past that you see a little bit in the first book, but like I said, you don't need to read it because Lola does go in depth with it in this book as the book goes on. And she's a beta, and she's just kind of like looking for where she's going to fit in with her life. And when she starts her new job, she's getting to know her boss and getting to know some other people. She has a big fear of alphas because of what happened in her past. So you do see her kind of working through that because some of the men that she ends up getting with are alphas, and like how she just kind of like overcomes her trauma. I don't even know how to explain this. It's an Omegaverse reverse harem. It follows Lola and 5 different men. And yeah, it's part 1. It ends on a cliffhanger. Definitely want to read part 2 of it. And yeah, definitely look up triggers before going into this because obviously the things that Lola went through and her past are hard to hear and talk about and read about. I loved it. The smut was great. I'm excited to talk about it with Cheyenne. And I suck. Let's move on. First comes Blood by Lilith Vincent. So Tamika, asked me to co-host the Taboo Book Club this past month, and the pick was First Comes Blood by Lilith Vincent. So this one is a reverse harem mafia book, and this one follows Chiara, I think. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. When the book starts, she is, it's her 17th birthday party, and her father, who is the mayor or governor or something, invites over these 4 men. These 4 brutal men that just come with reputations of being like scary men. They're all in like shady businesses. They're all in the mafia. You get it. Basically, he's like, by the end of tonight, you are going to be engaged to one of them. So then by this time next year, like on your 18th birthday and 1 week later, you will be getting married to one of these men. So it's just basically like promising her to one of them. And these 4 dudes show up, and the night kind of goes awry. She ends up engaged to one of them, and it goes from there. So you see her throughout that year leading up to her wedding as she's trying to like just navigate what's going on with her life. But then also you see her then when she does turn 18 and she has this arranged marriage. But then also, you know, things are not as easy as they seem, and it does turn into like a bit of captiveness as well. The 4 men, I really liked the 4 men. It ended on a big cliffhanger, so I definitely want to read book 2. I think I gave this, what, 4 out of 5 stars. Favorite guy, I think his name was it Lorenzo? He was wild. He was like unhinged, and I loved that. Yeah, it was just like a fun time, you know? I mean, when you're getting like a mafia, like when she's getting like promised to be this like mafia princess, you know, you just have that certain kind of vibe to expect in a hit, and I enjoyed it. Yeah, 4 stars. Okay, next up I read a novella, Heat Haven by Sarah Blue. So this is an Omegaverse novella, and I just needed something. I needed like a bit of a palate cleanser, something quick to read. It involves Emily, and she is an Omega who is about to go through a heat. So there is this facility called the Heat Haven where Omegas can go and have their heats in like a safe place where they can like choose who their alphas are, choose who their betas are, and have them screened, and can go through their heats in like a safe environment if they don't already have a pack. So she is arriving at Heat Haven in order to kind of like get those preparations made, where she is in an elevator and she meets Griffin, who is an alpha who has not found a pack yet, has really just been focusing on his work and kind of let his personal life fall by the wayside. And he's at Heat Haven to, you know, hopefully find a pack. And he and Emily are in an elevator ride up to one of the floors when it breaks, and they're stuck in there, and they, you know, connect a little bit. And by the time that they get out of the elevator, then she's like, hey, do you want to join my heat? And it goes from there. I like Omegaverse. They're fun. They're like a nice palate cleanser for me because I don't read them frequently. And it's just something like different, fun, spicy, quick. Yeah. What did I give this? 3.5 stars? And the last book that I read that I was buddy reading with one of my friends, and that is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So this was the second book that I read from Taylor Jenkins Reid. I read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo last year. Absolutely loved it, and I loved this one just as much. Again, 5 stars. So this one follows Daisy Jones and the Six. So it's told in an interview style format. So I don't know if you can see, there's no like just paragraphs. It is all like them interviewing. So in this book, the interviewer is interviewing them, obviously Daisy Jones and the band members, when they are older, and it's like them looking back and like telling their story as they're going. So Daisy Jones was a singer and the Six was a band, and it's all just like about their band dynamics, their rise and kind of fall, relationships with each other, their songwriting, their personal experiences, their lives. Like it's so good. It just gripped me instantly. I loved specifically that as you're going through, you get like the contradictions that come when you're getting one situation from multiple points of view. Billy will say something being like, oh, we came to it as a group decision, and then you'll see like Eddie, the bassist, being like, and Billy just decided what we did, and Daisy being like, Billy just told us what to do. And just how everyone has different versions of history in their mind depending on their perspective, and because you don't know who the truth is. You don't know. I found myself kind of like believing some people, but I'm like, that doesn't mean that it makes it true. They could very well be the ones that aren't remembering correctly. So absolutely loved this. I loved Daisy Jones's character. I loved the rest of the band members. Karen, shout out to Karen. Loved Karen. Karen and Daisy were easily my 2 favorite characters of this whole thing. It's not a romance. So obviously like everything else that I've recommended today besides Penpal are romances with like spice, because obviously that's what you get here. This is not that. This is like a contemporary book. No spice. but I loved it and really, really great. So yeah, I will have another video up on Friday. Obviously, I'm gonna try to be consistent about doing 2 uploads a week. I know I was going back and forth. It's just, you know, some weeks are harder than others, but it is what it is. We just keep moving on. So that is it for today, and I will see you when I see you.